We'll start with a roll call, please.
Jimenez, Perales,
Here.
Cohen,
Here.
Carrasco,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Esparza,
Here.
Arenas, Foley,
Here.
Mahan,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Licardo.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum, so we'll begin. Today, we're just going to be hearing from the community, won't be engaging in any action on the budget, but we are going to be listening and listening specifically to public comment about the proposed June budget message and the city manager's budget and everything else that is coming our way tomorrow. So we'll go straight to public comment. Every member of the community has 2 minutes to speak. And I would say we'll start with the community that is present, but I don't see anyone present. So we're going to go to the Zoom screen, and I'll ask Grace if she could read names off as they appear on the screen.
Elizabeth, Elizabeth Quintero, okay. Caller ending in 7670. Caller ending in 7670.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. This is Jonathan Borca. I am the Deputy Director of the School of Arts and Culture. And I am calling in support of the proposed budget for Councilmember Carrasco. Specifically, we'd like to call out a couple items. Number 2, the Alum Rock Cultural District. Number 3, in Eastside Citrus Grove. And then number 4, Emmerpush Park electrical improvements. So several of these items, specifically 3 and 4, we see in support of Resolution, who is a partner agency, and as we support the collective member. We think that the work they're doing is essential to our local ecosystem and beyond. Additional canopies, trees, seating, and electrical improvements will help sustain the work that they are doing and allow them to reach our Eastside community through food and farming. With regard to item number 2, we see the value in the Alum Rock and Mayfair Cultural District, along and in tandem with Japantown and SoFa as 3 prospective cultural districts. And our hope is to really align with all of the constituents and stakeholders to champion and steward this effort. So thank you, Mayor Licardo and council members for your time. And that is, we'll also be submitting a letter of support shortly to support these items. Thank you.
Jose Abastida.
Hello, my name is Jose Abastida, and I'm with SCIU 1021. I'm here today in support of the Essential Workers Council in regards to supporting items 2A and 2B from council members Arenas and Carrasco. I think it is really important that we support the community and that we continue to not only budget, but fund and fund workers that are needed in our communities. Thank you so much.
Dan Gibson.
Hey, good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Dan Gibson. I'm network. I'm in the network team of the San Jose Public Library, and I've been with the city for a bit more than 2 decades, and I live in District 6. So I'm here as well to support the Central Workers Council, getting our budget kind of on track to help fund or fill all the positions that are vacant, the 800 positions that we need to support our community. I'm a lifelong resident of San Jose, so I really care about getting all these positions filled. I was here when Measure B hit, and I saw how that basically just decimated our workforce. So many people have left to go elsewhere for greener pastures, and I'd really like this to become a priority for you guys. Thank you.
Dr. Forrest Peterson.
Thank you. Honorable council members and mayor, My name is Dr. Forrest Peterson. I'm here speaking for the Center for Integrated Facility Engineering at Stanford University in support of the Essential Workers Council by Council Members Arenas and Carrasco. I think that since I was there in the chamber and Mayor Liccardo handed, the Kamagai Professor of Engineering, Dr. Mark Fisher, an award for working on wage theft. There's been a lot of technology development since then. I think at that point, Stanford University Engineering was just entering the domain of wage theft and understanding that as engineers, we don't only plan the projects, we also need a plan to make sure that the workforce of the project is paid. We can't, wear those blinders anymore and just say that's the subcontractor or the subcontractor is the subcontractor's problem. I just manage the project, because the technology allows us. This is what I found through working with the city of San Jose. The technology allows us. There's the ability to reach down into those projects. We have artificial intelligence now. My thesis work dove into that, and I can tell you which worker was misclassified on which phase of the project on what day for how many hours. The granularity you can pull out of the data today is just unbelievable. So I really encourage the city council to do the right thing, make an investment into the citizens of the city, into the future, and make that technology and those personnel additions. Thank you.
Cole Cameron.
Good evening, everyone. This is Cole Cameron. I just want to thank the mayor and the council for all your wonderful support of our community emergency response team, also known as CERT. Specifically, what is included already in the mayor's budget and item 51 by my councilman Pam Foley and her great staff, Scott, and in the memo that each of you have received. Thank you so much again for your support. And I look forward to making our community safer and more engaged by having more trained individuals in every one of our neighborhoods. Complete.
Caller ending in number 4963. Press *6 to unmute.
Good evening, Martha O'Connell, Regional Manager for GSMOL, Golden State Manufactured Homeowners League, representing tens of thousands of mobile home residents in the city of San Jose. I urge you to increase the funding to do the project to give all mobile home parks in San Jose the mobile home park designation. This was unanimously passed in March of 2020, and we now need to get on with the work. I encourage you to either accept the Raul Perales increased funding budget memo or the Foley Jimenez memo. They're only $1 off. I concur with my good friend Sandy Perry in the Affordable Housing Network when he wrote, without this funding, the commitment you made at that time, meaning 2020, is still no more than a declaration of intent. So please increase the funding. This project has been delayed twice since 2015 before you voted to do it, and it's been delayed for 2 years thereafter. The mobile home residents were grateful the night we went home when you passed it. Please keep the promise you made, implement the promise. Thank you.
Annie Borders.
Hi, good evening. My name is Annie, and I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm speaking to you today about the San Jose Animal Care Center. I am in full support of the memos written by both Councilmember Mahan and Councilmember Davis on this topic. Vet staff, adoption staff, and volunteers are worn thin with the amount of animals coming into the shelter. While other shelters take in animals from 1 or possibly 2 cities, the San Jose Animal Care Center is currently taking in animals from 6 different cities in the Bay Area. They are the ones doing the most for our Bay Area citizens and animals, and they need the most help. I believe these animals are not being given the proper care, training, and enrichment that they deserve. That affects not only the animals and their health and well-being, but also the staff, the volunteers, and the adopters. I adopted from a shelter. I love my dog. I know the SJACC staff loves those animals residing at the shelter just as much. They just need the help and the resources to be able to care for them properly. Please consider the additional memos by Councilmember Mahan and Davis. SJACC is in desperate need of help. They are in desperate need of funding. They are in desperate need of support from you. I ask you to strongly consider giving your support to the shelter at this time. Thank you.
SVCN 1.
Hi, I'm Kira Kazantzis with Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits and the Nonprofit Racial Equity Action Leadership Coalition. Thanks very much for the opportunity to provide public comment today. So while we appreciate the strides that are being made in institutionalizing racial equity in the city budget and city processes, and funding is being directed to important approaches like the African American Cultural Center, the Pilot Promotora Program, and the South Bay Community Land Trust, we ask you to listen to the voice of 45 community-based organizations that are calling for additional investments in prevention and intervention. And speaking with just our SVCN hat on, we also hope that you will address the needs of all of your nonprofit contractors to cover the costs of the services they provide to the city, especially in this difficult time when your nonprofit partners are still responding to pandemic effects, compounded by hiring challenges and inflation. Thank you.
John Tucker.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Tucker, Union Representative for AFSCME MEF. I'm here today for two reasons. First is to be the first to let you know that today marked the end of AFSCME MEF's ratification process, and I'm happy to inform you that our approximately 3,500 members have voted to accept the one-year wage reopener. And so on behalf of all of our members, we thank all of you and want to acknowledge the leaders in the council who helped make this agreement happen. I'm also here today to express AFSCME MEF's support for the Essential Workers Council and calling for a budget that reflects San Jose's core values, supporting working families, uplifting their rights, and centering the voices of the hardest hit, excluded workers and neighborhoods. The current budget and the current agreement that we just reached are great first steps, but a lot more is needed, as you know. So we're asking you to please support items 2A and 2B in the memo from council members Arenas and Carrasco to continue this critical work on workers' rights, wage theft prevention, and of course, the city's workforce recruitment and retention issues. Just finally, you have the opportunity here today to start building back better and building back together, listening to working people and community members, not just developers and corporations, and moving towards a recovery that includes all of us. So please vote today in support of the Essential Workers Council, call to protect and empower working people, honor city workers, and pursue equity for all San Jose neighborhoods so we can uplift one another. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Angel C.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Angel. I'm an organizer with UFCW. So I'm here today to support Essential Workers Council, calling for a budget that reflects San Jose's core values, supporting working families, uplifting their rights, centering the voices of the hardest hit, excluded workers and neighborhoods. The current budget includes some positive first steps, but much more is needed. Please support items 2A and 2B in the memo from council members Arenas and Carrasco to continue this critical work on workers' rights, wage theft prevention, and city workforce recruitment. An inclusive recovery must address the huge and growing issue of wage theft in San Jose. Thank you for including additional staff for wage theft enforcement in the Office of Equality Assurance. That is much needed and long overdue, but internal staffing is only part of the solution. The city also needs to outreach and directly empower workers to know their rights by partnering with the community to meet our city's diverse workers where they are at, in their languages and with their trusted messengers. The city should be investing in working with the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement and the Fair Workplace Collaborative, the grassroots network for workers' rights outreach, so we can prevent wage theft before it happens. Thank you.
Sandy Perry.
Yes, I'm Sandy Perry, and actually I support a lot of the issues that have been raised here. The essential workers, the budgeting for racial equity, the mobile home park designation mentioned by Martha O'Connell. But I'm also specifically here as a board member of South Bay Community Land Trust, and we support the budget request by Council Member Carrasco for supporting for the tenants on Virginia Avenue in East San Jose. The tenants are currently working with South Bay Community Land Trust and Somos Mayfair in an effort to purchase their 18-unit complex in order to save their homes by removing the apartments from the speculative market where the complex is currently listed for sale. The proposal is for the city to support the tenants either through capital funding for acquisition and rehab or through capacity building funding for South Bay Community Land Trust to contract or employ technical expertise necessary to make this project happen. Preservation by mission-driven nonprofits like South Bay Community Land Trust is the most effective anti-displacement tool available for preventing tenants from losing homes through unaffordable rent increases. And it's also cost-effective as a means for obtaining affordable housing, because preserving units and preventing them from becoming unaffordable as they otherwise would can be done at roughly only 60% of the cost of new construction. So we want to thank Council Member Carrasco in particular for lifting up this issue and bringing it to the council. Thank you.
Pancho?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Poncho Guevara. I'm the Executive Director of Sacred Heart Community Service, and I'm a proud member of the Race Equity Action Leadership Coalition. I want to give the city a shout out for some of the proposals that are being considered, including additional resources for the Recovery Task Force, community development resources like those investments in the African American Cultural Center and the Community Land Trust, wage theft resources, and then also resources for the pilot Promotora program. But I want to call out one area that I am concerned about as one of the members of the Reimagining Public Safety Community Advisory Committee. We know that there's been a modest allocation of resources to actually help with the implementation of some of these ideas. But we've also seen considerable investments that are taking place in terms of investing in additional policing resources. And not to say that may not be what we want to look at as an overall solution to be able to put resources in terms of community safety, but can we make sure that we're looking for commensurate resources, really looking at prevention and intervention, along with the considerable resources being put into other solutions. So that is an area of disappointment because we know that the council is going to be working on these issues through the fall, and the administration will be bringing some of these things back, but not setting aside additional some commensurate resources and appropriate level resources to actually look at how we make our community safer can be problematic. Thank you for your time.
Cindy Harlan?
Hi, my name is Cindy Harlan. I am a 13-year employee working at the police department. I am also MEF president. I too am also here today to support the Essential Workers Council, calling for a budget that reflects San Jose's core values, supporting working families, uplifting their rights, and centering the voices of the hardest hit, excluded workers and neighborhoods. The current budget includes some positive first steps, but so much more is needed. Please support items 2A and 2B in the memo from Council members Arenas and Carrasco to continue this critical work on workers' rights, wage theft prevention, and city workforce recruitment and retention. Please commit to a comprehensive strategy working with city unions to fill the hundreds of vacancies, improve recruitment, retention, and advancement of current city workers. Thank you.
Christine?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would just like to propose that the council support the Office of Disability Affairs. I know Councilmember Foley has been working hard with all of us community members to put the office together and to make it happen sooner rather than later. And so I hope that monies are put to stand up the Office of Disability Affairs. Excuse me. Have a good night.
Richard?
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo, members of the City Council. I'm Richard Conda, Executive Director of Asian Law Alliance, a member of the Racial Equity Action Leadership Council, and a resident of District 3. The City of San Jose's budget is deeply disturbing because of the additional money allocated to policing and surveillance and not comparable investments in prevention and intervention. I support the city investment in the African American Cultural Center, the Pilot Promotorial Program, and the South Bay Community Land Trust. But more investments are needed in community-based prevention and intervention approaches. Asian Law Alliance has joined more than 45 nonprofit organizations that are calling for not only a moral realignment of the city's budget priorities, but also one that invests in solutions that we know are less expensive, more effective in making communities safer, and don't cause greater trauma and harm to communities of color. Thank you very much.
Victor?
Good evening. My name is Victor Vasquez, Co-Executive Director at Some of Mayfair, Peace of Political Collective member, SBCN, and Real Coalition member. So at Somos, we believe that preservation and empowerment is the main agenda to create change in East San Jose and the city. We believe that this process will create thriving hubs of economic and alternative solutions that could be a model for the nation. We believe that our solutions must also invest in Latinx, Chicano working families and BIPOC families. We support all the different demands that folks have mentioned, from the Real Coalition, the Essential Workers, Promotora Model, the Alamo Cultural District, the Eastside Citrus Group, Agenda Item, the Emma Push Electrical Improvement Initiative, and of course, the prevention services that our families need. We want to point out a couple of all the recommendations by Councilmember Carrasco. We're in support, of course. Especially want to dive into a little bit in the business development aspects, because as you remember, displacement and development has had a negative impact on a lot of our Latinx and Asian American businesses here in the Alamo corridor. And we also seen that impact of COVID-19 in some of these businesses. At Somos, we believe that these kind of resources, like a business manager, will help develop those business plans, but also at the end of the day, help think about innovative solutions like a co-op business model. We're in support of the Community Land Trust acquisition of funds for the Virginia apartments. We believe in community ownership and preservation as the best solution to address the needs of our community now. And if you combine those two items, we can circulate wealth as we allow people to stay here, work here, build their wealth, but also look at innovative solutions in the business world. We can create a cooperative capital of the West Coast here in Mayfair and East San Jose with these two solutions. And lastly, I know the mayor's also put on some items to grant access to Native American tribes. We support that, and also the Cesar Chavez acquisition funds.
Lan? I unmuted Lan, but his microphone went away, so I'm going to lower your hand for now. Oh, it's back. Okay, we're going to come back to you. Gisela?
Good evening. My name is Gisela Boucher. I'm the CEO of Loaves and Fishes Family Kitchen. First and foremost, I want to extend a thank you again to Mayor Liccardo and Councilmember Cohen for joining us at the groundbreaking of our new kitchen. Unfortunately, we had to accelerate this groundbreaking given the ongoing need for access to nutritious food being experienced by members of our community. I'm also a member of the Real Coalition and one of the 45 nonprofit organizations that signed on to support the efforts of always using an equity and a racial diversity lens when making these kinds of decisions that are going to impact our community. But as the CEO of Loaves and Fishes, I would be remiss in two things. One, thanking you for putting money back in the budget to provide funding that's being recommended for organizations such as mine that are feeding folks who are unhoused, who are struggling economically, who cannot just make ends meet. We have experienced a 300% increase in the request for our services in the last 3 years. It is not diminishing. The long-term consequences and impact are going to be profound and ongoing. I would request that you consider making this a permanent line item in the budget going forward. Because as long as there is a need for people to have access to nutritious food, we need to be able to be there as a resource for those folks. So I thank you in advance for your consideration, but ask that you consider the fact that food is not a luxury, it's a human right. Thank you.
Catherine?
Good evening, I'm Catherine Hedges. I'm a resident of District 3 in downtown San Jose, and I'm disabled. I support all initiatives related to disability issues. That starts with the Office of Disability Affairs, but also includes housing and land trust initiatives, compassionate homelessness responses and prevention, reimagining public safety, food access, and responsible landlord engagement initiatives. I also support funding initiatives to support East Side San Jose residents and small business owners because this neighborhood has long suffered from segregation under redlining. I hope the city can fund and facilitate a replacement for La Pulga too. And regarding other issues, we don't need more police surveillance. We do need more support for community projects to prevent crime. Thank you very much.
Kate? Kate Anber?
Hi, good evening. I'm Kate Anber. I'm a volunteer at the San Jose Animal Care Center and a rescue partner. I spent several hours over 2 days this weekend volunteering, cleaning kennels, weighing kittens, and networking to get cats and kittens into foster homes. There are currently over 600 animals at the shelter. Have you been able to hear me? I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Okay. Currently over 600 animals at the shelter and 400 is considered full. So I just wanted to include that information, but I also want to appreciate that the mayor and council hears and recognizes the needs to right size the staffing of our shelter. And also that they've recognized that the staff and volunteers are working tremendously hard at the shelter to serve the community. I wanted to request city council members to support the budget documents 31, 83, and 91. And I want to strongly support council member Mahan's proposals. These include to help restore operations and staffing to the effective levels needed by the community, and the proposals by council members Mahan and Davis regarding funding for spay and neuter services by partnering nonprofits such as St. Francis Animal Protection Society. Thank you.
Milton? Milton? Okay. Luis Auerhahn?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Louise Auerhahn with Working Partnerships USA. I'm also a 15-year resident of District 3 in the Sun neighborhood. And I'm here today to support the Essential Workers Council call for a budget that really uplifts working families and underrepresented communities and neighborhoods in all of our city. The current budget includes some positive first steps in that direction, and I want to thank you for those, including beefing up staffing for wage theft enforcement in the Office of Equality Assurance, and looking at investing more in HR and other measures to address the ongoing issue of city vacancies and high turnover among city workforce. So glad to see the progress is being made, but much more is needed on both those fronts. And to that end, I'd like to ask you to support in the memo from Council members Arenas and Carrasco, items 2A and 2B, which will enable the city to continue this critical work, report back to committee quarterly, so that you as the council and we as the public and community can make sure that this work is proceeding on workers' rights, wage theft prevention, and city workforce recruitment and retention. In addition, I want to thank you for restoring funding to keep libraries open in underserved neighborhoods, and for including seed funding for an African American Cultural Center in San Jose, which is a visionary and long overdue project that'll provide much needed job, housing, cultural, and health services to one of the communities most burdened by economic injustice. Please support the memo and look forward to being able to continue to work with you and all of the city workers and community as we move forward. Thank you.
Ashley?
Good evening. My name is Ashley Raggio with Lighthouse at Joint Venture Silicon Valley. I'm a member of the nonprofit Racial Equity Action Leadership Coalition, as well as a proud resident of District 9. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment today and for the immense work that you've put into creating these important investment budgets. A few items we would like to comment on for suggested improvement is the inclusion of funding towards a regional guaranteed basic income pilot to match the level of interest and energy in the region, and will give some of our vulnerable residents the breathing room to invest in family, career mobility, and community. We hope that San Jose will follow the lead of some of the other cities in the Valley by committing funding to GBI efforts. We also support the REAL memo and are disappointed that the proposed budget invests in additional policing and surveillance and does not make equally robust investments in prevention and intervention, which we know works and is less expensive. We hope the city will focus on making communities safer in ways that don't cause any further trauma and harm, especially to communities of color. We ask for greater investment than is currently listed in the Recovery Community-Based Task Force. What is proposed is not enough to dig into the many issues they are looking to tackle. Lastly, we ask for permanent ongoing support for food distribution, which should be a joint county-city obligation. The city should also address the food system resiliency. Thank you very much, and go Warriors.
Glenna? Glenna Howcroft?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I support the Foley and Jimenez and Perales memos. As the president of GSMOL chapter S0008, I am asking the members of the San Jose City Council to stand behind the promise that they made to the mobile home residents over 2 years ago and change the designation of all mobile home parks to San Jose. In 2020, we worked hard to make our voices heard. We called your offices, we signed petitions, we wrote letters. Then on March 10th, 2020, we showed up en masse to the council chambers and filled the overflow rooms beside it to speak at the microphone. You voted unanimously to approve that designation. But here we are in June of 2022 and absolutely nothing has been done. We find out no provision for funding was made. Many people feel all our efforts were in vain. Tonight is your chance for you to prove that those feelings will be wrong. As a GSMOL chapter president, a senior, and a disabled veteran, I'm asking you to fulfill the commitment that you made to the mobile home residents of this city over 2 years ago. Thank you so much.
Jill Borders?
Hi, this is Jill Borders, and I'm actually speaking on the same topic. I first want to shout out to the South Bay Community Land Trust money. Thank you so much. Anything and everything that we can do to move forward with having conversations and studying the dynamic of land, the price of land, the price of the building, and how we can sort of establish a new way forward is welcome. So thank you for that. My issue is definitely with the mobile home park issue tonight. And Mayor Liccardo, I want to thank you very much for your care and concern on this issue from the past statements that you've made. But the statements that have been coming forward from now have really spoken to the lack of trust that the public feels that they have with their local government. I, for one, just at this point, just feel like I do not have any trust. How can it be that we can have a lot of senior citizens, working people show up at the height of not even knowing what coronavirus was or how deadly it was going to be, and they showed up at City Hall on March 10th, right before we really understood things, and they braved those steps, and they came and they went and they stood there and they basically poured their hearts out to the council, and there was a unanimous vote that said we care. And I want you to know that I went back today and yesterday and have listened 3 times to the discussion between City Manager David Sykes, Rosalind Huey, Michael Briot, Landeep, Councilmember Jimenez, who was amazing, by the way, in pointing out that this was a budgeted item that would need to be accounted for. And the City Manager David Sykes said it would be. I have viewed it 3 times. There is no doubt in my mind that we need to move forward with Councilmember Peralez's number 8 memo and Jimenez and Foley's memo and get this done.
Emily?
Good evening. My name is Emily Schwing. I'm the Public Affairs Director at Vegelution, part of the Sequoia Collective. I'm here to support the budget memo proposed by Councilmember Carrasco, specifically items 3 and 4. First, for item 3, an East Side Citrus Grove is an essential climate mitigation improvement to Vegelution and Emma-Prush Farm Park that would increase production of food for local community members who participate in our programs and will provide in one of the lowest canopy neighborhoods. These trees would play a key role in beginning to address climate change related issues related to the heat island effect. For item 4, an electrical upgrade to Emma-Prush Farm Park that would allow Vegelution to plan for more critical food system infrastructure. According to the County of Santa Clara Food System Work Plan, the crisis during COVID-19 and what followed indicated a great need for a Santa Clara and specifically San Jose food hub, which can support a distribution facility connections between regional farms and specifically small BIPOC growers and local markets. This electrical upgrade would allow Vegelution to become the much needed food hub in the heart of San Jose. Again, I'd like to thank Councilmember Carrasco for raising these items to Council.
Michelle?
Hi, everybody. My name's Michelle Mashburn. I'm a disabled resident of the city of San Jose. I continue to support more measures to improve disability equity and inclusion in the city of San Jose. Sadly, I would be happy at this point if I was solely insured my disability rights. I support MBA 16 as a starting point and really ask the city of San Jose to do more. At this point, you have only barely scratched the surface on the issues, and there are ongoing struggles with the understanding and awareness around disability and ableism that will continue to thwart you. It is great that this process has been started, yet it is sad to find myself more shut in by the absolute lack of supports for disabled people and those with autoimmune and other health struggles. Just in case I'm not being clear, I want to say that I will likely die if I contract COVID, even though I am vaccinated and boosted. So I ask each of you what supports are still being put out to support our disability and senior communities that is also heavily impacted. One major finding of the light engagement process that City of San Jose was able to conduct is that most of the gaps in accessibility of public service and programming were already known to many of the staff members present, and they echoed what the engagement process heard from disabled people. This is not acceptable. Sadly, the history of ableism, eugenics, and injustice are currently winning. We need more from the City of San Jose, and we need it quickly, and thank you.
David?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. I'm David Beanie, and I'm speaking today for the Santa Clara and San Benito Counties Building and Construction Trades Council, as well as myself. I'm a resident of San Jose, and I'm speaking today in support of the memo from Council members Arena, Esparza, and Carrasco. The memo contains an important prompt to refocus the city staff on city priority number 16, the wage theft prevention policy. In addition, it addresses staffing for the Office of Equality Assurance to ensure that the city's responsibilities regarding wage theft are upheld. The memo also highlights the need for a pilot program between the Office of Equality Assurance and our county's Office of Labor Standards Enforcement. And such a partnership would shine a light in some of the darkest corners of wage theft. Worker protections are a critical function of government at all levels, and I urge support for directing the city manager to produce the requested items. Thank you very much.
Mitra?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Mitra Ellie, and I am a union organizer with Unite Here Local 19. I'm here today to support the Essential Workers Council. The current budget includes positive first steps, and we appreciate that very much, but much more is needed. Please support items 2A and 2B in the memo from Council Members Arenas and Carrasco to continue this critical work on workers' rights, wage theft prevention, and city workforce recruitment and retention. Even before COVID, low-wage workers of color and immigrants in San Jose worked in unsafe working conditions, dealt with rampant wage theft. I can tell you from personal experience working in a union, I've seen that happen a lot. And retaliation if they tried to speak out. At the same time, the city workforce, who are also majority of people of color and women, have suffered a decade of disinvestment and outright attacks. COVID has only made these conditions worse. Many working people are called essential, but they're treated as sacrificial. 87% of COVID deaths were essential workers. More than 2/3 of essential workers killed were Latinos, and many more suffered wage theft, abusive workplaces, and forced unpaid leave, or being fired for standing up for their rights or for the needs of their families. You have the opportunity today to start building back better by building back together, listening to working people and community members, not just developers and corporations, and moving towards a recovery that includes all of us. Please vote today to support the Essential Workers Council call to protect and empower working people, honor city workers, and pursue equity for all San Jose neighborhoods so we can uplift one another. Thank you.
Ruth?
Hello. Thank you for what you've included in the budget that uplifts workers' rights. I am the supervising attorney of the Alexander Community Law Center and of the OLSC's legal advice line, and I also am coordinator of the Wage Theft Coalition. I support the Real Coalition, the Essential Workers Council, the existing electrification framework, land trust, disability, reimagining public safety, and also equity-centered recruitment and rehiring. I want to thank you for including more staffing for the Office of Equality Assurance. It's such an important agency and does such critical work. I'm also requesting that you include what's in 2A and 2B of the memo of Council Members Arenas and Carrasco, particularly outreach and partnership with the OLSC's Fair Workplace Collaborative, and also the report back to Council by the Office of Equality Assurance. I want to thank you for keeping the libraries open and for the African American Community Agency. This is not part of the budget, but I urge you to keep on your radar the Responsible Construction Ordinance and adding public works to the wage theft policy. I want to thank you for funding Councilmember Arenas' proposal for a women's conference. But I understand that the city isn't funding the inclusion of high school students that Councilmember Arenas requested. I urge you to fund high school students' inclusion in this important conference. Thank you.
John?
Hi, my name is Father John Pedigo. I'm a member of the nonprofit Racial Equity Leadership Coalition. I'm also the director for advocacy and community engagement at Catholic Charities, which is the social action arm of the Diocese of San Jose. I want to thank you all for the hard work you put in the budget, especially in supporting the Promotora community-based strategy. But having said that, there's a lot of room for improvement. Catholic Charities is disappointed in the budget that invests in additional policing and surveillance, but it doesn't make comparable investments in prevention and intervention, which we know works from our own experience. We ask that you also invest on the front end of the problems that we're facing in society. So therefore, we call for a robust additional investment in community-based prevention and intervention services. Also, as the largest multi-site community-based distributor for food, Catholic Charities has seen clients climb from 40,000 to over 110,000 people a year during this time of COVID and COVID recovery. We need to, as a city, address food system resiliency. this should be a permanent ongoing effort between the city and the county. So we know that recovery is not always an even process, and so we would like to see funding directed towards a regional UBI pilot. And so we want to thank you again for your consideration. Thank you.
We have an in-person speaker, so we're going to have Lan Jensen speak and then go back to Zoom.
Quick call out to the outstanding city's leadership when the Silicon Valley Recovery Roundtable organized 59 business leaders and community leaders in the Bay Area and produced a well-written report in August 2020, 2 years ago. And in it, there's one that sounds loud and clear for the innovation capital. And it's fitting that this leadership called out that the small business digital divide is widening since this past 20 years. And it's also fitting that Silicon Valley is the one to put it on the agenda. The report further pointed out a solution, which is to establish a volunteer marketplace and a small business getting digital playbook. I am proud to report that in Silicon Valley, the small businesses and nonprofit organizations have heard the call and answered it. By now, we can proudly share that that call recommendation is a brilliant one, proven by reality, meaning that small businesses can indeed be helped, and they have proven to be sustainable, and they will be thriving business leaders, making a thriving lives for their businesses, and they will be paying customers of the said digital capabilities. So I'm here to speaking today. My name is Lan Jensen, representing one of the business leaders and nonprofits, hoping that the business leaders and the city leaders will be truthful to the vision that you have pointed out, and it does not require much money. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to Zoom. Moria.
Hello, Mayor Liccardo and council members. I'm Moria Merriweather, and I'm a volunteer with Mothers Out Front, Silicon Valley, and a resident of District 6. I'm moved to hear so many residents who are here tonight speaking about so many important needs in our community. I'm here speaking on behalf of Mothers Out Front, Silicon Valley, about the proposed East Side Citrus Grove. Mothers Out Front supports the proposed East Side Citrus Grove and the seating area at Vegelution in Emma Prush Farm Park. Our city needs more trees, and the fresh fruit from over 60 different varieties of citrus trees would help feed hungry East Side residents with healthy, fresh, local food. In addition, more trees support our efforts toward climate stabilization and support community connection with nature. Thank you so much.
Nathan. Oh, Nathan, it looks like you have an older version of Zoom. I'm going to lower your hand. If you can update your Zoom, then we can allow you to speak. I'll move to Annie.
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo and council members. My name is Annie Yang, and I am the chair of the Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society's Environmental Action Committee. For decades, Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society has been advocating for increasing safe crossings for wildlife, from birds along riparian corridors, newts at Lexington Reservoir, to mountain lions on Highway 17. We support the allocations in Mayor Liccardo's June budget message for fiscal year 2022-23 related to the Monterey Road Wildlife Corridor safety improvements and planting of trees. Monterey Road remains a roadkill hotspot in Coyote Valley, an area protected by this council as open space, habitat, and farmland. The feasibility study that would be partially funded through this budget allocation is a first step to facilitating safe passage for wildlife and improving driver safety. We also support investing in increasing the urban tree canopy, and we urge the city to focus on native trees in this effort in order to provide habitat that increases biodiversity. We'd like to thank Councilmember Jimenez for his ongoing support for wildlife conservation and linkages and protecting all creatures, large and small. Thank you.
Jackie?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Rivera with the South Bay Community Land Trust. I just also want to echo much of what peers have shared around the support for more initiatives that are community-centered, community-led, and overall community-owned. Especially want to give thanks to Councilmember Carrasco for uplifting the work that the Virginian apartment tenants are doing in being a part of the South Bay Community Land Trust and being also part of trailblazing for this kind of work here in the area. I'm very excited to share with them, the support that I've been hearing all evening today. And overall, again, to continue to do a lot of this work around housing preservation and beyond, right? As we were sharing around community-centered initiatives, to just, as we've seen more regional support, more state support, we want to make sure that we continue to build upon that, not only for capacity building for the land trust, but for overall tenant organization in our city, and be able to establish a long-term permanent preservation fund. So thank you again, and moving forward on this budget proposal. Thank you.
Molly?
My name is Molly McLeod, and I am appreciative of the opportunity to speak in support of MBA 16 regarding engagement with the disability communities. One of the things that I'd note is that I believe in progress, not perfection, and this is progress. I'm thankful for Councilmember Foley's support last year for an Office of Disability Affairs and the work that went into a report about that. I'm concerned because there's no place for that report to go besides this busy budget time. There is no Disability Commission. There's no Human Services Commission anymore, and it's not assigned to go to any committee. Also, when comparing other cities, keep in mind that San Jose, 10th largest city in population, is one of only 2 out of the top 20 largest cities that has no disability office of any kind. So the idea of having one FTE for this type of job, it's an astonishingly big job. So perhaps we're aspiring to be more like the city of Fresno. Let me tell you what's fabulous. Besides, they are half the size of San Jose in population, but they are very clear on the city of Fresno's Public Works ADA, what the complaint process is. They're not losing complaints, and they've got a process to get them through. That is a really good thing, and not what San Jose is successful at right now. They also have annual reports every year, as well as transparency on different parts. I'd ask you as council members, when you're considering this, how disability confident do you feel? In other words, are constituents still not being able to get captions when they reach out to you? Do you know how to provide accessible services? And are you sure that the city of San Jose is capable of doing that? How many resources will it take?
Liz?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Gonzalez, a lifelong Eastside resident and a founding member of the South Bay Community Land Trust, calling in support of Councilmember Carrasco's proposal to support Eastside residents, families who have lived at the Virginian apartments for decades and who are already the caretakers of their home that is in the neglected condition that too many apartment complexes are in. Funding this kind of resident-led initiative is sorely needed and one of the only viable options for low-income residents to have a path toward ownership and to lead collective ownership in the city. And when we stabilize neighborhoods, our neighborhoods become safer without the need to fund more police. It is shameful that with the recent disgraceful and continuing lethal actions of the SJPD, there's still an option to reward them with more funding. Gotta take a breath after that, because got a lot of feelings there. But I couldn't leave this meeting without saying that. And thank you again, Councilmember Carrasco, for lifting up the critical anti-displacement work of the South Bay Community Land Trust.
Nathan? Nathan, it says that you're still using an older version of Zoom. He's currently the last hand up. To use Zoom and to participate in public comment, you have to have the most updated version or else we are unable to allow you to speak. Back to council.
Okay. Just want to confirm those are all the public speakers, all the speakers from the community that have indicated desire to speak. Is that right, Grace?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to continue this hearing when we take up the budget and tomorrow's council meeting. I understand council will begin at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. This budget item will not come up, I believe, until 6 o'clock. Is that correct? I think it was especially set, if I'm not mistaken. Grace is nodding her head. You'd tell me if I was wrong, right? Okay. All right. We're going to, no, Jim's shaking his head saying no. It's not noticed for a specific time. It's simply trailing many other items, which are likely to take a lot of time. So suffice to say, budget won't begin at 11 a.m. We're going to have a lot of other items to take up, but it will come up later in the day. We certainly welcome everyone's participation at that hearing. Thank you to all the members of the community who came out to speak, and we appreciate your input. This has been obviously a significant undertaking. Putting together a budget for a city of 1 million residents requires a lot of listening and a lot of input. And over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been blessed to have many community members deeply engaged with us, and we appreciate that. With that, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.